So welcome to The Art of Feeling Better, and my latest episode. I'm joined by my lovely friend Sonka, and we are in a beautiful hotel in Norwich, which feels like a million miles away from where we started from.
Well, it is.
Yes, it is. But because it is, it was quite a drive, but it was a really important journey because we have spent the weekend with a group of really incredible people. I think you'll agree with me that it's a privilege to be part of such a great group. And you will know from past episodes that one of my passions is my work within education, and this particular group is a group of other passionate educators and leaders that are spending some time sharing their stories, sharing their programs and their wisdom and their practices to look at reimagining education. Because whatever your viewpoint or whatever your standpoint, and I've said this so many times, the system does not work in its current form, and we all know that, and we're all sitting in that space, but it's very difficult to take action for many reasons. So we're looking at, we understand that, and we recognise all of those factors. However, we're not prepared to sit still and do nothing. So we're trying to wrestle and work out between us, what is it that we can actually do as individuals? What power do we have? What wisdom can we share? And how can we influence change? And we wrestle backwards and forwards between, do we try and kick down doors and force people to change? Do we collaborate on programs to try and help at ground level? Do we work with the teachers? Do we work with the children and the young people? And it's a big, the analogy yesterday was the eating the elephant analogy, wasn't it? We've got a big elephant, and it's really difficult to chunk down into small bite-sized pieces. But I definitely think we are making progress. And this weekend's been a good one.
This weekend has been a good one. And another analogy was that we are all holding two different parts of this elephant. So coming together and sharing what we learned about the tail and ears and trunk and belly is so important, and that's where we brought it down to. We brought it down to ourselves to work together to support each other and create a ripple effect. So we are not kicking doors. We are not kicking anybody.
Well, maybe not. Let's see how.
Yeah, I'll see how that goes.
See how we go.
But we definitely feel like it's energy revolution.
Yeah.
And it's not physical anymore.
No.
And we need to bring it back to us, support each other, see let the world see what we're doing, how well we are doing it, how much results it brings.
That was quite a revolution.
And let the world come back to us.
Yeah, let them come to us. That was such a penny drop moment. You probably didn't notice, because I was sat in the room and it was very end of 2 days, which was really intense. And you'll see from some of the stories that were shared, it was a really intense weekend. It wasn't until the last maybe hour when, for me, it was like, I realise we have to turn inwards and support ourselves and each other rather than the outwards.
And until now, those who work with energy, I do work with energy quite a lot, and actually that's what I do. But one of the things, but the main aspect of it, you could feel the energy in the room going like.
You could, couldn't you? And everybody said, I feel peaceful.
From that kind of agitated, how are we going to do this? This is just way too big.
You're right.
How are we going to turn the massive ship? So if we are thinking of ourselves as little ships, if we can start turning ourselves, eventually we've got more power.
And it's those ripples, isn't it?
Turn it around. So definitely I felt that kind of relief. I was like, thank goodness for it, because we are already doing it. We don't have to go and try to figure something else out. And put even more energy into it. We just keep doing what we're doing and supporting each other and making it bigger, a bigger force, stronger force, and force which goes from heart. So when I use word force, I think it's important to say there is no power force. There's not physical force. There's another force which we need to start using, I believe, and it's the energetic force. For those who are Star Wars lovers. That's exactly what we're doing.
And that's what we're going to chat about a little bit today, isn't it? And I think we'll probably end up doing at least two separate podcast episodes. And I have another friend that I've done two with, because we have two different sides to our stories that are very relevant. but need to be separated out, I think. And one is the fact that we're both energy workers. That's what we do. We've got very different routes of how we arrived at that space, but we both have a deep understanding of how energy works and what we're here to do and how we're here to use that to support ourselves and others. But we have different backgrounds and different starting points of that journey. And I think we'll probably talk a lot more about energy anyway in this episode, but I want to do a specific one really to really help support people and pass on some of your wisdom on how it all works. And because of your background, I feel you have extra powerful story because you have come from a very corporate and a very male-dominated industry and shifted massively. And one of the reasons we wanted to do this episode was to kind of tie that in with education anyway. And we've done a lot of work now with educators. So we've spoken to people who are struggling at the top of their field, the head teachers, people like Chris Jones, who have moved out of education and are trying to shift from their leadership perspective. And we've also spoken to young people. We spoke to just some wonderful young people at the Wherry School yesterday to show us about how their approach and how incredible that space is, specifically for those with additional learning needs of varying degrees. And we focused on that a lot, how the school system isn't set up for any young people who have those additional needs. It's really incredibly harmful, not just, obviously for the young people, but for the parents and the teachers as well. We've also spoken to incredible young people like Harry, who are now out of that system and reflecting on how much harm was unintentionally caused to him by the system being inadequate and not fit for purpose. So we've heard all those stories, but I'm really interested in the similarities with our story through education, that really there was no issue. We are the success stories. We're the success stories. We're relatively academic, went through the process of getting good grades, A-levels, university. We tick the box and provide the data for all these big success stories within the current system. And there are many children and young people, and I work with lots of them, who are either high achievers with the label more able and talented, which I can't stand, because the pressure on those young people to keep that up is also not great. And also those who never get recognised. They're not naughty or disruptive. They're not in the more able superstar league. They just tick the boxes. They do it well. They get the qualifications. However, when they're adults, I then meet them along the journey again with this revelation of, I don't actually know who I am or what I'm supposed to do, because I never had the chance to explore that. And we talked about that. So this is what I would love to hear from you, and bring in whatever you would like to bring in about your current work. But if you use the lens in this episode of that education system and what you learned, what you didn't learn, and what you wish you learned, and share your story as much as you're happy to share.
It's for me, the word when you were talking the word came to me as you were talking was compliant people. And when I say that, I mean, and I'm going to talk about myself, but I'm pretty sure many will relate. Compliant inside, not compliant on outside, but was it compliant on inside? And I went through the whole system. Just to give you a little bit of background, so you can pay attention. You don't have to try to figure out where my accent is from for next 30 minutes. I'm originally from Slovakia, so I was brought up in communism. And the good thing about that was, bear with me, there
no one's ever said there's a good thing, which is great anyway, to have that perspective.
Good thing about that from child perspective, because I was 11 when the revolution happened. And good thing about that everybody is wearing the same, is equal, everybody gets paid pretty much the same. That's how it looks like. So it's very easy to comply, because you don't see the differences. Everybody is taught to behave the same way. We didn't have to wear uniforms, but what is available in the shops, pretty much you just have a different color of the same, basically, to a certain point. So, and I'm not exaggerating, maybe a little bit, but not much. That's how I remember it as a child. So it's very easy. These days, you've got children exposed to so much. They've got their own information. We were only given information from teachers, from parents, from institutions, So it was much easier for them to keep us conform. Keep us to conform to all the rules we had to learn. Most of them we had to learn by heart. So it really was ingrained into us. So I was growing up in the system until I was 11, and then everything changed. The border opened, the influence came in, and the confusion came in, because suddenly what we were told is bad for I don't know how many decades. Our parents lived in something the world was bad and manipulative and whatever. Everything Western was not allowed. Suddenly the border opened, but we couldn't change quickly. Right, it was decades and decades of conforming, and I don't think it ever changed, to be honest. The confusion increased, the negativity increased in many ways, but the confusion didn't go away. And
that makes sense, doesn't it? From
it
a brain
absolutely makes
perspective,
sense because there's the generations and generations of people
it's a belief
conforming
system,
and living in a certain type of environment. So the environment changed, but I don't think we changing enough. And the reason for it, because the influence changed, but not the other influence is still bringing different rules, conforming to different rules. But none of that change is actually bringing us to who we are. So my rest of my education was obviously in very open world. I've finished college. I went to university. I've got masters in mechanical engineering. So I got straight after uni. I left country. I came to the UK. Went through I didn't speak the language. I wasn't particularly good at learning language sitting down. I learned by speaking. So coming to England, getting job at reception in a hotel, and within a year and a half.
That's crazy when you said that yesterday, that you're not speaking the language, you get a job front of house.
Yeah, I was actually put at reception. Well, they obviously thought my English is good enough. Adrenaline at interview must have kicked in. My English was obviously good enough to put me at reception in Scotland.
Oh, it's insane. That's baptism of fire.
Yeah,
just
that
you
definitely
in.
was. But brilliant learning curve. Obviously, I picked it up very quickly. First sentence I learned was like, "Can you please send me an email?"
Yes,
because phone conversations was no go. So it was really kind of opening up myself to different worlds straight away, but also finding out very quickly that I'm not fit to survive. So thankfully, with all the education and everything, I had to adapt very quickly. And it was very steep learning curve of who I am. I came with my best friend, so I wasn't on my own, which was massive help. She was a little bit more fit for life than I was. So thankfully, she kind of helped me a lot. But that was first realization that actually I went through the system and I have no idea how to live. And obviously, since then, it's nearly 20. It will be actually 20 years this year since I came to England, and since then, it was the journey of self-discovery and learning to live the life.
So, do you think your education
in jungle?
In the jungle. Do you feel now that your education started then?
My life education. I was certainly once I got the job, I very quickly actually progressed into getting a job in engineering. So it was as a document controller, and then as a junior engineer. And I actually, when I left my career, I was chartered mechanical engineer.
Wow.
And I was lead mechanical engineer. So, and it was all within pretty short period of time, if you think of it. So obviously my adaptation was very quick. It had to be. It had to be. I had no family
here. You had no choice, did you?
Yes, I had a friend, but I could have gone both ways. Thankfully, we absolutely love each other. So it didn't split us. It just made us stronger as a unit. But once I was in engineering, I was again in my comfort zone, because that's the system I knew. Somebody was telling me what my day will look like. Obviously, I have my priorities.
You could conform, and it was comfortable.
Yeah, and I could obviously organize myself and lead myself as an engineer, as someone in institution. but leading myself out as me, it was two different things. And I think it's very important to realize in education that at the academic level, I think it gave me so much. I would do it all over again
to get that knowledge,
because it's completely different way of looking at life. And every education, there is so much into it. And I can see even in with working with my colleagues, people who come from experience side have completely different qualities to bring than when I bring than us who come from academic side. And it's both very much needed. As long as you choose what works for you and then bring it to the table. But when it comes to life skills and when it comes to surviving and thriving, not just surviving but thriving and coping and resilience. And actually, I'll come back to resilience a little bit because as I said that word, I would contradict myself a little bit, which I didn't realize until now. But I think it's important to realize that we need both. But I think summarizing it, if I have a life skills, the academic wouldn't be that important. But if I don't have a life skills, it can go very badly. So thankfully,
you've got both.
I've got both. I've got both now. But I started to gain my life skills at age 24.
As an adult,
and it's just not the academic world is not real world. Let's put it that way.
That's a really good way to frame it.
And when it comes to resilience, that's why I stopped myself, because I just feel like resilience, both worlds give you some.
Yes, I agree with you.
Some kind of gifts for resilience. So it's just whether you are pushed over your capability at that particular moment or not. So resilience is if it makes us more resourceful. That's what resilience is for me.
Growth.
And if I'm pushed beyond my safety, it's just
it's that window of tolerance, isn't it? And it brings me to my work in trying to help the adults to change. It's the adults, we know this, we've had this conversation, and that's where we landed as a group. It has to start with us. We can't just keep dictating to children, you need to change, we've messed up, therefore you must change it. We've got to do it, haven't we? And having that understanding at a very basic level of the brain and neuroscience and window of tolerance, it's very easy to see when a young person is being stretched. And we have to, as we said it over breakfast, we have to move out of our comfort zones. That's peak performance. That's how we grow, expand, evolve, grow, and we can only do that outside of our comfort zones. However, that window of tolerance, if we understand how that operates for each individual, and we can recognize the signs when somebody is being pushed a little too far, then you have that support to bring them back from there, to say, right, okay, you need to operate in this zone. And there are zones, but the adults don't know this, parents don't know this, teachers don't know this.
We don't know how to regulate ourselves, our zones. We've not been taught that. Because like I was growing up in fairly safe world, you may say. So for me, it wasn't the danger that we had certain countries around, kind of dictating, because as a child, you don't, it is actually safe as long as you behave, it's safe. And that's another aspect of it, isn't it? As long as you behave, it's safe.
And that's conformity in itself.
And that goes not just through governments ruling the countries like communism we had, but it mirrors in the system. And I think that's the whole system of education. As long as you behave, it's safe. And I think that's underlining problem.
Because if the behaviours that are expected are uncomfortable on an inside level, or feel harmful on an inside level, you have a conflict on what safety means, because you're being told do this and you'll be safe, but you don't feel safe doing those things, and nobody helps you to explore that or understand things like consequences. So I'm not a complete anarchist. I understand that discipline and attainment is important, but I understand the deeper mechanisms of that, and you have to create that level of psychological and emotional safety and understanding that no, we have to do things in a certain time, and these actions impact on other people. And when you have those conversations, a lot of young people go, oh, okay, fair enough. That's
the behavior is misunderstood, I think, and we've heard lots of beautiful explanations about behavior and in a very school yesterday. But one thing which really stayed with me was when they said the behavior is way of communication.
Yes.
And I can definitely see that. I work with companies, I work with teams, and I in my corporate life, it's never the job, it's behavior of the people and how we perceive the behavior, and whether we own our behavior or whether we blame others for behavior, and sometimes even for our behavior. So bringing it back to ourselves, understanding our behavior, that's the start for me. So bringing, as you're saying, bringing it back in, bringing it home. Because when I started to understand my behavior, because I went through on my journey of actually who I am and learning to live, and kind of taking one opportunity or opportunities as they came. It wasn't necessarily something I focused on where I want to be in 10 years' time. It was never my way of living. But I took opportunities. But as I went from one job to another, there was always someone who was making me feel undervalued or like I'm not doing my job well. And I remember the moment when I realized actually, but I'm the common part of it. I'm common. I'm the
me.
common particle. So I'm the one who is in all those situations. And I already started to kind of tap into self-development, self-mastery, and try to understand behavior. I was always fascinated by people's behavior, and I was always people watching and kind of trying to understand why people, and even predict sometimes situations. So it was always my passion. So I just took it, but I never thought of looking at myself. So when I started, actually, I was like, how do I behave? You know, and why is this pattern repeating?
It's powerful learning, isn't it? I think that's the same for me. And
I remember the moment driving from work after the day of which felt absolute rubbish because I spent half of it on toilet crying because somebody upset me because I didn't feel.
Everybody else, you blame. You're like, why are you all doing this? And then you realise.
I was driving home. I was like, hang on,
this is me.
You know, it keeps repeating, and they're actually quite nice people, and it's not just me. If they are not quite, it's not just me. Why am I taking it personally? You know, they don't just cherry pick me. And that was the moment when everything changed for me, and I started to observe it. It was like, okay, so they are confirming what I'm already thinking. And or what they are confirming I'm already thinking. And I realized that actually I didn't feel like I'm good enough coming from this world, you know, even though I was probably the only one in some teams who had master degree. But it didn't give me, it gave me budge, but it didn't give me confidence. It didn't give me self-valuation. And so I always felt like any comments on the documents which were excessive, personal. You know, it was all personal. So obviously it wasn't creating great relationships because then people tiptoe around me
and you get defensive
try to and it's just not nice, and we know the story, we all been there. But that moment driving home, turning out from the car park, I remember where I was like flipping hell. You know, like and I remember driving for like a few meters. I was like, okay, this doesn't feel good. But I can't unsee it. And that point led me to where I am now, and more and more self-development came in, and more knowing of who I am.
It's that self-mastery, isn't it?
Absolutely, self-mastery is the biggest one, and that's the core of my work.
And you always get it, don't you? I'm going to ask you about your work in a second as well. I think I'm going to ask you about your work. I know that we want to. Well, we got this time. It's fine. I'm going to ask you about your work, and I'm going to ask you about just to maybe you can do a little 5-minute reflection on yesterday as well, on this weekend. But I think for it, we've said this as well before together, that it is definitely an ongoing. You're never going to complete this piece of work. You always have to learn. And for me, it's other people, other great people that I feel safe with, yourself included, and other great coaches. Biber has done something for me and shifted as well, and lots of people that I'm connected with now. For me, it's when people can check your blind spots and point things out to you, and you can go, oh, I've done it again, it's me, without getting defensive. You did this this morning. I know this, and I've just done it again. There's some more work to do. There's another layer to peel back, and that's so important, so helpful for me. That's my sort of coaching circle. And if I can do that for other people and other people can do that for me, I think that's a really nice way of engaging with that sort of self-mastery. And in the past, it would be so easy to immediately, and you see it all the time in behaviours, to get defensive. You point something out, or someone points something out to you, and you go, but
that's okay if we still do that, don't
exactly,
we?
because you feel like you need to, but then you have to reflect and think.
I was actually standing there and defensive, so obviously it triggered something in me, and that's the learning from behaviour, isn't it? Which is important.
Yeah, and it's communicating an unmet need and learning that any behaviour, communicating some kind of unmet need, and then having the space to then, even if you do react badly, which that's fine, it's all okay, but what happens next? Are you able to drop down and reflect, think, why did that affect me so badly and so strongly? Where is it in my body? When did I first experience it? How can I move it through? I don't need it.
So 100% agree. And also the conversation over breakfast could have gone, I would have seen and felt,
you would have,
if you were defensive, and I would go, because we are all both aware. And this is the good example when people start being even just aware of behavior and understand that, because the conversation could have gone, if we weren't aware, conversation would have gone, do you realize what you just said? You just and you would go,
no,
and I would go, oh, she's a little bit touchy,
and I would,
and that would be a relationship kind of a little bit chipped.
Because I would have potentially felt, you just judge. I just said something and you judged me immediately, but my instant reaction was, it was a gratitude. You're brilliant, thank you. You just checked my blind spot for me.
And that's because we are both aware of that learning from our behavior is the most important. So the conversation when, do you realize what you just contradicted yourself with what you actually want? It's like,
I did.
But even if you went, I was like, I would go, you feel this defensive.
Why do you feel uncomfortable
about that? That's okay. But you would know that. I was like, I do. And
I love it. I love the way that works.
So that's really good example. How do you know that there's more work? Because you get triggered.
And for me, my whole life's work now, and that's why I'm grateful to be able to I'm always going to do it myself, because I don't ever want to reach the point where I stop doing the work and then just tell everybody else what to do. And you can't do that, can you? So I really want to keep doing that myself and keep digging deeper and peel back.
And the moment you feel, this feels good, something.
Well, you know that what's next then, and that's great, because that's evolution and growth, isn't it? But for me, it's moving into, and that's my body of work, is really that kind of shadow work space, helping people feel safe enough to move into the uncomfortable feeling, because that is where the healing takes place. If you move into that feeling and discover more about it and shine a light on it, which is why it's called shadow work, bring it out from the shadows where you've repressed it,
to awareness,
bring it out to awareness, and suss it out and think, why do I feel like that? Where is it in my body? What's it telling me? What's the learning? What's the wisdom? Do I still need it? And maybe I still need it. I feel like I still need to keep hold of it for now. Okay, I'm not ready to let it go. But for me, the majority of the time, because I'm actively seeking it out, I guess, I am ready to let it go. Yeah, great. I found another one. I can install that app. Don't need that anymore. But it takes a great level of self-awareness for us as practitioners, whatever you would call the word.
But you also have a really great portal when people actually can take themselves on a journey.
So we've got that
Mojo school. So it's exactly what you're doing. So
there's a space for
opening up.
But your work in particular, you have to be so self-aware, and you have to constantly work on your own self-mastery so that you can show up for your clients.
It's a big thing. That's the only way to do it. And my clients trigger me.
Well, and that's the point, isn't it?
And that's okay. Obviously, I'm not gonna, because if I wasn't aware, I would take it's like, you're rude, and
you'd have no clients. You'd be like, all my clients are all awful.
But it's just, it's always learning both ways in communication, and that's why communication is so important, and that's what my work is here, to kind of simplify the relationships and amplify the communication, and that's the core. That's the core.
So that, I mean, what
a
beautiful segue, because that's my next question, is literally just talk us through, from your backstory and your history and your childhood that we've heard, and your completely different career in engineering. What are you doing now, and why is it important?
Well, I work. Why is it important? So let's start with why is it important. there is so many forces in our external world which are making sure we are separated from each other and we are separated from ourselves. But let's look just at that being separated from each other. And one of the forces I believe became in the last few years is inclusion and diversity. And controversial,
really controversial.
Maybe
we've had a great conversation about this.
We did have a good conversation about that, but I really would like us to take a moment and let that sink in, because I feel like we are creating boxes with labels on them, how to use certain people a certain way because they look certain way, because they behave certain way, which is different to normal.
Who says what normal is?
Being in the engineering world, being in corporate world, in the office space, dealing with different companies and countries, I can see that it actually creates a separation. It creates resentment to go and talk to people. It creates apprehension, and even I would take it as far as fear of communicating and engaging with people, which may be a little bit different, because at the end of the day, different means danger for our brain. And basically inclusion and diversity for me became inclusion and differences, and let's highlight them. So for me, simplifying those relationships and amplifying the communication is the way to work with companies, to work with businesses, for sustainable growth. You need your people. And you need good relationships. You need people you can depend on. And if the relationships are chipped, you can't rely on your people. And people can't rely on each other because they will not wish to, because there is trust issue and all sorts. And we now call it inclusion, diversity, psychological safety. For me, it's respect and understanding of our behavior, and from there, understanding behavior of others. So that's my work. That's my core work when I work with companies and their teams.
I think it's brilliant. And we had a really good chat last night. You know, when you go away and you stay in a hotel and you have these incredible mastermind groups and these agended meetings, and then sometimes in the toilets afterwards, or in the bar, or, you know, as we were having a little sleepover party,
we did.
You have some of the more penny drop moments, and the impactful conversations can come from these sort of reflective spaces. And when you were articulating that to me and you were talking to me, and I was thinking about my own bias and my own perspective, and I was thinking about all the people that I've spoken to over the years and worked with over the years, and all my sort of friends and colleagues within that sphere of diversity and inclusion, whose whole life is built around advocating and promoting that philosophy. I was sort of recalibrating as you were talking my own thoughts on it. I thought, wow, this is really powerful. And I love this because I like the content. That's how I operate. Bit of controversy to make people think about their own perspectives. I thought, oh, this is great, because I'm able to do that now, and it's somebody else is giving me that opportunity. I thought, oh, what a brilliant point to make, because I've always assumed, as I said to you last night, of course I wouldn't want to be as inclusive as I possibly can. Of course I want to respect everybody and understand everybody. So as soon as that label and that philosophy crossed my radar, I jumped straight in. Well, yeah, obviously I am. And that's what it started to be. But I can see, and I didn't see until you pointed it out to me, and I started to critically think, actually, the work that I do now, and I can see actual physical evidence of what you're saying, that it's not, and when I say it, I can't really define what it is. Maybe the whole concept or philosophy of those words are not doing what they originally sought to do. They are actually doing the opposite. Like you said, they've been hijacked. That whole philosophy has been hijacked.
That's what it feels to me.
Yeah. And I asked you the question, did it take you a while to come to that conclusion yourself? And you said no. As soon as it crossed your radar from your engineering brain of difference equals danger, you immediately saw that as being that. Well, I didn't until you mentioned it. I thought, oh, I'd not thought about that at all before.
Yeah, and so so it took me a while to formalize it in my head into something, and definitely it took me a while to be brave enough to start talking
it takes
about
courage
that.
to come
Because
to,
I seem to be the only one in the room who wasn't cheering up. I was like, you're just highlighting the differences between people, so how is this helpful anymore? But yes, I'm trying to I had really good chain of thought, and I forgot what I wanted to say about that.
So I'll come back and I'll edit it back in.
Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, at the end of the day, I don't think that's what I was leading to. That if you think about that if we understand each other, if we are really connected to ourselves, just like we have a challenging conversation, we don't agree on everything.
And that's okay. It's fine.
And absolutely. But if you think about that, if the inclusion and diversity and psychological safety even have to exist, it means there is something internally kind of disconnected with us being human.
Yes.
On certain level. So yes, on a human level, yes, the difference is danger. But if we perpetuate it and highlight it more and more and more, we are creating more fear.
Yes.
And I think that's what it is doing at the moment. So that's why it's important for me to create the spaces when people can understand themselves, accept who they are, and go and behave. Not behave. That's not a word, but be who they are.
Go and show up in the world as themselves.
As themselves, and
without
from
fear.
that,
if
I accept this is who I am. This is what I'm good at. This is my work to do. Then obviously I can call on Jane or anyone else. Can you help me with this part? And
but you have clarity of who you are, and you're not. And I think in terms of energy, those of you, I know a lot of my audience understand energy. For me, in terms of energy, we're not trying to constantly steal each other's energy or fight for energy, because we already know really laser focused who we are, and we also understand the other, but we understand the connection between as well. If I'm making sense, so it's just a nice relationship.
I kind of. I've got the boxes for humans, so don't get me wrong. I've got human who are living a little bit more in 3D, and I've got human who live a little bit more for the 5D. So that's the only two boxes.
The two boxes, yeah.
But I know they are. There is a door between them, and it's just who finds the door when.
Yeah, it's a really good way to. Actually,
and so it's one big box. It's just in which part of that box you
which
part. So for people in a real life to actually see it, like if I understand myself, and if I know I'm aware of my insecurities, and I'm aware of my behavior, and I can check in on my behavior, I don't take things personally. So it means people can't offend me. And if somebody does touch me, I know it's my work to do. But it doesn't chip the relationships. I can articulate it because I've got enough of agency and autonomy from permission from the inside of me, because I'm confident enough in my being. I didn't like what you said, but I still love you.
Exactly, absolutely.
And it's just completely different. Because we suddenly have a choice. And it's another value in my work to bring choice back to people. Because if you don't know who you are exposed to external opinion, and then you're confused because you don't trust your inner guidance. So coming back to inner guidance, into inner confidence, or what I call the inner independence, gives you the agency, gives you choice. Then you can communicate the choice. So the honest and open communication becomes just normal part of us. You can call it even putting the boundaries in place. Suddenly you've got a choice, so you don't feel manipulated by others or in mercy of others' moods, opinions, and what's happening in the world around you, immediately around you, I mean. And then relationships can thrive and can grow and can expand. And if everybody is doing this work, and if everybody's understanding the basics of our human behavior, it just brings everything together, and it's a constant circle or it never stops. But if we understand that everybody is at some point of the circle and of this triangle of self-mastery, choice, and relationships, and learning from it all and communicating it and recalibrating, is a completely different way of communicating with each other, different level of relationships, and the world is safer. The world is safer. So when we feel safer, we are more open to connect and to be, and it's just ripple effect, and it just goes around.
Again, it's the ripple again, isn't it? It's working on the self to ripple it out. And I think that bringing it back to human connections, what it means to be human and human to human communication, automatically takes away fear of other. And as you say, fear of other is what the biggest issue is at the moment, whether it's political divide, which football team you support, where you're from in the world, what your belief system is, who you decide to have a relationship with, why that's an issue, I have no idea. But, all these divisions, I think, and I'm still recalibrating myself on this one, because I have a belief system that's so ingrained, but I really do feel drawn towards that exploration of actually, I understand the concept of creating awareness and understanding, and that's what I've bought into. We have to understand each other, and that means understanding our differences. So I bought into that concept of it's really important to share awareness and knowledge that other people are not the same as you, and they're not going to believe the same as you, and that's okay. So that's what I've been exploring. But actually, I can see how that very thing is just continually highlighting those things, and actually exploring what unites us, i.e. we are human beings, rather than what separates us, has got to be the key, because all those other things fall away then, don't they? So I'm recalibrating right now.
For me, and it does need recalibrating across the world, because at the end of the day we are all different, and that's as simple as that.
Each individual,
So we wouldn't know, hi, I'm Sonia. Hi, I'm Jane. Who are you? Let's talk. And that let's talk part disappeared, became awkward, became fearful, became apprehensive, and resentment in a communication. It ignites the gap, makes the gap even wider and bigger. And it's like, for me, if I have an analogy to use, it's like you feel embarrassed and you say something and you leave the room in front of people. How hard it is to come back.
It's
but
really
if you
good.
stay there, stay in the room
and work through it,
it's just kind of
it's easier.
It's much easier than coming back into the room, because you've got eyes on you.
And
I think and that feeling when you're coming back into the room because you have to, I think that's the exact feeling I feel between people and communication. And we need to bring the communication back. We need to bring because without communication there are assumptions. And based on assumptions are based on our story. But it's got nothing to do with the story of the person. So if we don't communicate, we assume. And as an engineer, you never assume.
You can't.
You never assume.
So
for me, that's why the communication part and relationship part is important, to bring world back together.
I love that
on human level.
And again, you just bring it into this beautiful segue into my next question, because we're going to wrap it up shortly, and we're going to do we'll definitely have many more conversations, and I'd love to dive more into our energy centers and how it works, and being a woman, and lots of different topics that I'd love to cover with you. And well, if you're ready to go down the rabbit hole deeper, that's what we'll do. We're just easing you in gently.
It can be overnight.
It might take some time. We'll have to go on another weekend just for that. But for now, every single person that I've spoken to on this podcast, and it's called The Art of Feeling Better for a reason. I have a book with the same title. We have a playlist with the same title, just because that, for me, that's what the essence of what I'm here to do, is just support people in trying to find out how they can feel better in its very simplest form. So I've been asking everybody to share 3 different things, and the first one is quite a big one. We've already really answered that, but just in a few words, what do we need to do to change the world?
Start from ourselves.
It's as simple as that, isn't it? It's literally
self-mastery.
And that's the weekend's knowledge for me. That's what we've worked through this weekend.
Self-mastery.
Start with yourself. It's so true, isn't it? So second question, is there one thing or one tool or one resource that you use personally to help yourself feel better if you're escalated or feeling triggered or being sad or anxious? Because we're building a collective toolkit for anybody who's watching this podcast of things that might help them feel better in the moment. So from the big to the very small, what is one thing that somebody could do every day to help themselves feel a little bit better?
Oh, so many thoughts in my head. So I'm just choosing the right word for which one will let me feel into this one. I think what makes us feel bad is guilt, shame, and these kind of feelings. So for me, I think the one thing is just to lean into whatever insecurity or feeling is coming in, because what we resist persists.
Yes.
And it's not from my head.
I like that.
I heard it ages ago, and I keep coming back to it.
Yeah.
And we are taught to go down the rabbit hole. Why I'm feeling this and why I'm feeling that. But just accepting the moment that, okay, I'm feeling this. I don't have to figure out why, and that's okay. Don't close. Don't close into it. Don't try to push it away. Don't try to shame it. Don't try to. Quite opposite. I love you.
Yes.
I love this feeling. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't understand you quite yet. Maybe it's not the right time for me to sit down with you, but I accept you. I see you. I feel you. And you will be surprised how much weight
really
you lift from it. And that's my go-to, and I've got the goosebumps as I'm saying it.
It's brilliant.
And that changed my life.
Same for me, actually. Yeah.
Not going down the rabbit hole and reliving it. Because one thing I don't do with my clients is relive the past. Yeah.
Moving into it, acceptance and gratitude. Lean into that. And another one that I'll steal from Carly, if you're watching, I got this from you. You may have coined it, or you may have got it from somewhere else. If you can feel it, you can heal it. So it is that as soon as you feel something comfortable, don't run away from it. Just move into it gently with acceptance, with gratitude. And like you say, if you don't understand it, don't overthink it. Just be with it. Just sit with it.
Just awareness is more powerful when we give it a credit.
Just sit with it. Beautiful advice. Finally, my last question: do you have a favorite song, a favorite piece of music? I know I didn't prepare you for this, but it's good. Just any. I mean, we can add as many as you like, so don't feel pressured to pick any. But just
I send you my playlist.
Send the whole playlist, but just something that if you're having a really bad day. We were dancing in reception last night.
It was definitely ABBA.
Nobody else was, but we were having a little thing. But is there one song that just instantly lifts your mood?
Yes, and you will go like,
really? Not expected.
And it's and now I forgot the name of the band. Oh crikey! But it's Fear of the Dark, and I absolutely will have a look. I completely lost
it. It's Iron
Maiden's
Fear of the Dark. I was trying to. I think she doesn't mean Iron Maiden.
Yeah, she does.
My husband's going to love you. Oh, that's going on the playlist. Great, you're going to love this.
So it's.
I was trying to think of any other band that's doing
Iron Maiden. I was going to Black Sabbath, but I knew it's not them. So Iron Maiden, Fear of the Dark, and that song comes on every. I knew you were gonna do that because you would not expect that.
Well, I made assumptions that you wouldn't like. We're listening to Iron Maiden all the way home. No, we're not really. 5 hours of Iron Maiden now.
Yeah, and the second one is a Trooper.
All right, we are listening to Iron Maiden.
Yeah. So that's why I never assume.
You can't assume. I love that.
So Fear of the Dark.
Nice.
Because just and it's just go and listen to it and lyrics.
Yes.
That's what we talk about, because we fear the dark, but actually that's where all the answers are.
It's a great shadow work song.
And the music. In the music, for me, it's everything I need in the song.
Vibrationally as well, it shifts, doesn't it?
Yeah, I just jump. When I'm cooking, song comes on, everything goes down.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, my husband takes everything out of my hand.
Really?
Because
you're going.
I'm off. So that's absolutely energizing. I know the title isn't, but I promise you,
no, it's a great
listen
piece of
to
music.
it. And if you haven't heard the song, put headphones on or a good
volume.
surround system.
And do you know what the assumption will be when people look at the playlist? They will assume that it's me that's chosen Iron Maiden Fear in the Dark, because they know that that's my kind of music. So that would be no, so it wasn't me.
Yeah, it is my kind of music. Beautiful. It's not only music. When you go on my playlist, you've got all sorts there. Spotify is absolutely confused with my choices.
Yeah, it's good. I mean,
doesn't know what playlist to give me.
But eclectic taste is great, isn't it? Whatever you feel.
Song.
Okay,
that's it never failed me.
That's going straight on. Thank you so much. I'm going to wrap us up there because we always keep it to under an hour, and otherwise we'll start a new conversation. So I think we've covered a really nice amount. So I'm going to thank you for being my super special guest today. We've now got 5 hours of driving to keep talking, but we won't be filming that bit. So I'd love you to come back and do another at least one episode with me, and we'll pick another topic.
I'll be more than happy to.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much. It's hug time again.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Reach out, any questions, any runs, any conversations. Let's spread the word.
Link in and talk. Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant.